And in studio today to talk a little bit of sports, the one and only Josh Ryan.
One and only. I'm sure there's others in the world.
Well, maybe there is, but there's no one quite like you, Josh.
Well, thank you very much.
And it was quite a busy weekend here in Lloydminster for sports. I think we'll kick it off just talking on the court there with some Lakeland Rustlers basketball.
Yeah, indeed. So big sweep, obviously, for both teams, taking on the King's University College Eagles. Both teams that were expected to be victories for the Rustlers, but they're also both improved squads this year, that have played other teams in the league tough. So both teams took care of business, a little bit tighter than the men would like in the home game, certainly coming down to the last minute of play there. But ultimately, 2 wins is 2 wins, and they can now move forward both with 3-1 records heading into this weekend.
Yeah, and the men, they did have a tight one in that home game there. But the women, on the other hand, they really dominated in their home game there.
Yeah, 23-point win, I should say. They've really started to roll a little bit on offense, which is very different than the start from the last couple of years. Bilge Topologlu looking a little bit more comfortable in the post. And Angela Barron, fourth-year shooting guard, has always kind of struggled with the decision-making side of the game. She's done very, very well through 2 games, 2 new career highs in points, one after the other. And so if she can do that kind of scoring for them on a more regular basis, then that means this team absolutely has a chance to compete for an ACAC title.
Now, Josh, that's back-to-back 20-point or more wins at home for the women's team. Do you think they can continue this throughout the season, or is it more just, off the get-go, off the hop, starting off strong?
I think there's going to be some games where they don't have that level of margin of victory, certainly. I think a weekend like this weekend where they play the Kenney Huskies should be a tough one. Kenney tends to be a very physical team. The rumor is they have a player from Serbia that will be a tough cover for them defensively. But I do think that if this team plays more consistently, which they're starting to show signs of, they have that potential. And that's obviously something that the volleyball teams will have to do, is we'll switch it over to another side of the Rustler Sports area. The women's team splitting the weekend with the Nadukes, while the men were swept, though they definitely showed themselves well against what's arguably the best team in the North Division this year.
For sure. The Ukes, they only lost 5 sets for the women's side heading into this series between the Rustlers and the Ukes there. And, the Rustlers did a good job in that Friday game. They kind of took control, as Austin Dyer said. It was theirs to lose almost. They just sort of outplayed the Ukes. But Saturday night was a bit of a different story. They made a lot of unforced errors. They started coming back late in the game, almost forcing a 5th set. Unfortunately, they lost in 4 and just couldn't hold on for that one there.
Yeah, and especially, as you said, unnecessary errors, especially on the serve-receive side of things. They really tried a couple of different lineups out on serve-receive. And the one good thing they've seen is some of the youngsters are starting to get used to being on the court and showing a little poise. Janae Varga had a big offensive night, and she's sort of helping fill the void of their 5th-year players from last year, Shelby Becker, Annika Koos. But some other youngsters, there's still going to be sort of a level of discomfort, I guess. A girl like Jana Lang, really a rookie setter, even though she was a redshirt last year. That's a pretty tough change, or a pretty drastic change, I should say, from Ray Sigurdsson, who was a 5th year. So they're going to get better, this team. They're still pretty young. They're still sort of figuring out their chemistry. The main thing they'll have to change immediately is, of course, serve-receive.
Yeah, and one thing you mentioned is Lang starting as that red shirt last season, now coming in as the starting setter. It's always tough after, not playing very many reps or just being on the practice squad to actually jumping into that new higher level. Last time she really played and really had this big of a role was in high school. It's a total different game. So, really look for her to adjust and, get going and help carry this Rustlers team.
And they certainly hope that will be the case this weekend when they're on the road against Kenney. Let's stay here in Lloydminster really quickly, though, before the segment wraps up, with the Bobcats finally getting things done on their home ice.
Yeah, finally, I think everybody can give a little sigh of relief, especially Nigel Dubé, who they were on quite the skid there. They hadn't actually won a home game since January 18th last season. So quite the run there. All the boys after the game were hooting and hollering, having themselves a good time. You can tell that they really want to build off this as a team, whether it's dressing room chemistry or, just on the ice in general. So it was really good to see from them.
And with most sports, but especially hockey, you often do see there's that sort of rallying cry around a particular victory. In this particular case, they've been losing at home for so long and had a lot of tough losses in a row that sometimes all you need is that one victory to finally sort of get a little catharsis and not grip the stick so tight. And so now you've gotten that out of the way. Now they can focus on other areas of improvement. They've talked a lot about the culture in the room and said a lot of the right things. Now that they finally have a win, maybe we'll start to see that growth.